Ben ik voor de Nederlandstaligen goed begrijpbaar? Zijn er vragen? Ja? Oké. It may be that you have a concept, a narrative element, something that you invent together and you both like. And it can start the story. It can be an introduction, yeah? An element of introduction in which, I don't know, in which the audience who watches the movie is introduced to a certain atmosphere or a certain person or a certain object. It can be anything, okay? So, oh, the composer says, that's interesting, that's special, that's unique. I'm going to create a certain sound cloud, which is introductory, it's not real material yet. And for example, with strings, we can make a nice tremolo and there is a whirling sound coming out of nowhere. So for example, along with this, visually and narratively and conceptually, we create musically also something that starts from somewhere, yeah? And I would think that maybe to introduce a movie in a very special way, you could use a sound of whirling sound with strings or a low piano sound like this. I don't know, you can create something mysterious. That possibly has, if the musician plays this for the filmmaker, he says, oh, that sounds dramatic. And he starts to think. You see what I'm going to say now? Is that sometimes the idea comes from the film context. The musician does something, it sounds with a certain atmosphere to the filmmaker, and this idea, which generated this musical reflex, it generates another narrative element, or an atmosphere element, or a visual element, I don't know. And together you decide, okay, we arrive at a certain point, after 7 seconds of introduction, suddenly we want to jump into the movie, and we want to use big accents in the music. Big accents. So, and here, you create something visually, you write fast motion, for example. Fast, sudden, hyper-energetic motion. I don't know, for example, something like this. After which, silence after the storm, after which you create here a vacuum of, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 seconds. And during this idea, a solo voice, a cappella, unaccompanied, that means, onbegeleide stem, starts to sing a beautiful line. Not too short, because we've had very short starting events. And here, maybe 15 seconds, a beautiful mystic voice also. So it can be very mysterious and very, very special, can be introduced. And so the narrative can also start to develop. What is great about drafting the plot and drafting the music like this is that you can create contrasts, like this very soft and unidentified introduction, very concrete chords, bum, bum, bum. When I do this, I will play it. The musicians know this, but maybe the filmmakers, if you do... that's very different from an atmosphere like this. That's a huge contrast. And visually, I'm sure the filmmakers among you immediately see different things when they hear this kind of musical impulse. You see? So the interaction between the both of you, the two disciplines, is the big trick of this approach. That's a fantastic challenge that you have. Also a tool. This is a tool for you. This, for example, can be used again. As I said before, you can create contrast, but you can also create continuity. So, because A story that only has contrast is boring. When there is no continuity, when you don't have an understanding of what comes back in a different way or with a different meaning, yeah, it's not a story. It's simply not a story. So, I think, at least musically. So what we can do is, for example, use this atmosphere once more, but it becomes more, I don't know, in brighter colors or with closer details and so on. So I would call this closer or bigger, I don't know. Could be anything, could be the opposite, could be farther away, less defined. But the music, let's say if it were closer and bigger, the music from here can also be reiterated. And you can create a fantastic moment here with a lot of whirling, not very soft and very low, but very, I don't know, more of this, something of this sort, that clearly refers to the beginning, so the narrative connection is there, but it means something different, and that's great. It means something different. So you play with contrast and you play with continuity. As you can tell, just a brief illustration that I give here. Before you know it, half of the movie starts already to be something that you, in your mind, you can dream. You can imagine, oh, it's going to be like this, it's going to be that direction. We can create images and music that follow those lines and so on. Before you know it, you're in a common world, creative world, in which a story can develop. And what I do now is just very broad lines, but later on, and later today, you can refine what is exactly going to happen here. How is maybe musically going to be added, a certain melody or a certain rhythm that really is making more sense when you see the movie, which is giving more sense to the movie as well. So many, I will conclude here, but just to give you one more idea. For example, the chords that I played, high chords and loud chords and rather percussive, like you would hear xylophone and xylophone. You can use these chords also again as very soft, nice little chords like this, as I played. You can, for example, do very soft. It's there. Everybody knows it's a reference to the beginning. And on top of this, you can do. And so on. Like Shostakovich does very often. He uses a certain rhythm. Where does it come from? Oh, go look back to the first pages of the symphony. You'll find it. And then it becomes a magical little motor underneath a line that the oboe plays, or the strings play, beautiful lyricism. So what becomes a reference here to the loud percussive accents, what becomes an accompaniment, in the story, in the narrative, can also become something in the background. Maybe this figure here with fast motion, I don't know, or an object that goes by very quickly. Here, it can be something in the background that we still see, and that does something repetitively. It can be something that comes back, but in a different way, different meaning. So, and the beautiful lyrical line on top of this, where does it come from? Of course, it can come from here. So, this can be the background idea. So, the narrative idea can come back here on top in some other way. And you can conclude by, I don't know, many ways. You can conclude with big percussive chords and a lot of hyperkinetic motion in the visuals, or the opposite, you decide to go back to nothing, that's also possible. You can, for example, build to the climax with something that, of course, refers to the opening and to the middle part, and will be a conclusion as well. You can have an acceleration here, visually. Yeah. That's exactly what I want to. I don't want to talk more about it because it's just a tool, and it's the most important thing is that you feel free to go your own way with creating something. Dirk, if you want to add anything, please feel free.